Hey, ever feel stuck and wonder why some people achieve greatness while others remain average? Join me, Mark Jean, and Beyond Average to Great as we uncover the secrets to breaking free from mediocrity and unlock the greatness within you. Through inspiring stories and insights from people who have changed their lives, you'll learn how strong decisions and bold actions can take you to the next level. Let's go. Okay, welcome. I am really looking forward to our next guest that we have here. And let me tell you a little bit about him before we get started. At the age of 12, he moved to the U.S. from El Salvador. And after earning a degree in business management, he began working at Stewart Film Screen and eventually became a vice president. However, the job left him with little time for his family, so he decided to start his own business to gain more flexibility with his schedule. And as the owner and president of By Design, he now represents some of the most elite audio and video products in the world, assisting countless technology professionals in delivering superior results for their clients. So Joaquin Rivera, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. So looking forward to our conversation. I mean, we've known each other for a few years. You've been instrumental in my business and helping us with making sure that we provide a great result for our client with the right products and the right solutions. And so just want to have a conversation about that, maybe just your experience growing up, because you have kind of a unique experience migrating here or moving here to the US when you were little, and then finding your way to now being a business owner, helping hundreds of other businesses be successful.
Yes, it's definitely been a unique way of growing up. It definitely is a shocker.
Mm-hmm.
My background or the way that I was raised until I was 12 years old back home. And then you get here and it's a completely different world. And I'm not saying that parts of El Salvador are not, let's say, as civilized, but where I was born, it was dirt floors and no running water. So it was a completely different lifestyle. Now, regardless of that, of course, when it's a happy life, regardless of that. It's a lifestyle that it's not as worrisome. You're not always in a rush. You're not always in concern about paying all the bills, right?
Yeah.
But definitely coming to this country was not necessarily that I wanted to. I was forced to do so because of the Civil War back home. So I came here with my father. My father brought me because I was drafted at the age of 12 into the Army back home. And my father was able to get me out of it. That was age 12 was the age where you actually got drafted back then. And I could get into details, but not necessarily kid-friendly. But my father was able to get me out and flew me here. But after that, unfortunately, had to go back home. And so I've been having a good time. I did have family members, but I did make it on my own, put myself through school and had a job since I was 12 years old at restaurants. Had to stay in the back. Because, of course, it wasn't legal to have me working there. But you know what? I'm grateful that they took a chance on me, or that they were able to provide me with a salary, or not even a salary, but a job.
Yeah.
So it's been a very unique way of growing up. But I tell you what, Mark, it really helped. As everybody says, it makes you who you are.
Yeah.
It was a challenge, but I appreciated everything about it.
Now, who had the greatest impact on your life during that time? Was it like
So
individual.
since that was um, my whole family, they had to work, right? So I did have a couple of sisters and brothers, but uh, you have to work. And so going through high school, I would say probably one of my teachers in high school, and Mrs. Mubashir, and she was very uplifting. That she believed that I had it within arts, that I was a good writer, and I was good in arts. So she
Mhm.
gave me that motivation, and uh, I enjoy arts. I enjoy drawing and painting, but uh, you're always afraid that you're not going to be able to make it. Therefore, you're not going to make a living.
Yeah.
So I think she gave me a lot of hope, and I was working for this Italian family in a restaurant business, and the owner, I was pretty shy, uh, very within a shell. I was not spoken at all. But I realized when the owner was um, very friendly with people, and customer loved that. When you come in, he would greet you by your name and, hey, would you like the usual? Um, and so people like that. And I realized that at that point that it's not life is not about anything but people. Uh,
Yeah.
we we sell products, but we don't sell products. Uh, we sell sort of the infrastructure.
Hmm.
High-end electronics, I think, are to a certain degree irrelevant without the people behind it, meaning the support mechanism,
Yeah.
how the people treat you.
Yeah.
That truly matters at the end of the day. So I think that he's the one that woke me up, and because of in my path to do art, and then I thought, man. So that kind of came natural to me. And I'm not saying I'm good at business, but business came natural. I went to school for business, but it's because this Artiano was his name. He passed away a couple of years ago, and
Mm.
I was working with him since uh, I worked for his brother first when I was 12, and then I moved on to his place when I was 14, until I was about 20. Put myself through college with him. 28. I had, a couple of jobs, but that was
You're kind of free.
so because of him, I went to school for business.
Your signal is freezing a little bit, so I'm missing parts of that.
Oh, I was just saying that because of Al, it made me realize that I wanted to go to school for business. So I
Okay.
did work with him until I was done with my schooling, which was very uh, helpful.
Yeah.
That he, it's not, you don't make a whole lot of money there, but it was helpful that he allowed me to work with my schedule.
Yeah. I like that what you said about really people is who you connect with. You're not necessarily connecting with a product, you're connecting with people. And so that's who you really want to build that relationship with. So that's I wrote that down because that's
Yeah,
something that I think we forget that sometimes because we think, oh, we got all these cool products and things that we can sell to clients. But really, the people is who we need to get to know. What do they need? How can we solve their problem with
that
technology or whatever the issue may be that we can help them with? So,
that's
uh,
on, that's 100% right. And I think that look, it really depends, right? If you are in the commodity business, so if it's something that is cheap, then perhaps people won't matter. I've never been into that in that business. It's always been high end. So people are really key component there, um, especially in electronics, right? Because unfortunately, whether we like it or not, you will have stable companies, stable products, but once in a while, it'll just happen. Something will go wrong.
yeah,
So that's when, if you know the people, if you have taken care of the people cannot wait to take care of you. So for me, it's never really going to be about the brand. It's always going to be about the people.
Yeah.
Of course, the brand, the product it's definitely critical. The product has to do the job. Uh, but if for some reason, as I said, something goes wrong, we want to be able to take care of our clients the best possible way or the soonest possible,
Yeah.
because high-end clients have a little bit less patience.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we want to jump at that. And so the people make that happen.
Yeah. And I find too, at least even just from experience today, where a client texts you because something's not working and you can sense the frustration in their text, that you pick up the phone immediately and call them. Don't text them back because you can't read how someone's emotions are in a text very well. So when you talk to him, even though he was frustrated, he was still understanding and appreciative that I called him right away, tried to address the issue and understand what he was experiencing, and then walk him through how to get it working. So
But
those are,
imagine though, imagine if you have a product that for some reason your client had an issue with, and then you'll call your sales rep or the factory and they cannot support you right away. You can't get a hold of them for, I don't know, 24, 48 hours. What do you tell your client then?
yeah,
So if you build a relationship, well, yeah, it has to be the right company, but if you build a good relationship with the company, they don't want you to go through that. So again, it's people do make a big difference.
yeah, they do. And even with the products, like you said, who we align ourselves with has a lot to do with what you just said. You know, the reputation of the company, the support that they give to us that we can provide to our clients. So that goes a long ways in how we partner with a company that we're going to try to sell their products. So now let's kind of use that to launch into, how did you get involved in the whole audio visual world, and how did you start working at Stewart Film Screen, probably, you know, the largest manufacturer of movie screens for commercial and residential products, or projects?
Yeah, so that was very unique that I ended up there because that's not something that I wanted to do. But I would say about, uh, I'll funnily say it, but about a high percentage in our business is people that were in the music or film industry that did not make it. I was one of them. I love music. Art has always been a passion of mine. So music, I did music for a while, produced, and uh, I ended up at a studio and got to meet Scott Stewart, who was one of the owners of Stewart Film Screen. His father was the CEO. He was VP of production, and he was a guitar player,
Mm,
amazing guitar player. And so uh, he would come to my, after the studio, he would come to my restaurant and we would do sessions at the studio. We became pretty good friends. And he would always ask me, you got to do a factory tour. You got to come and work for us. And I did about 5 factory tours just to please him. But I to come and, start in production, and that's what you want me to do. He said, no, there's a lot of different things that you can do. Anyways, no, I'm like, no, thank you. Finally, one of those days that I had been trying to do this one soundtrack for a movie, and I did a lot of work on it, and ended up not being used. I was a bit depressed. I was on vacation, and I had my son Nathan. He was a newborn. Um, and so he calls me up and he says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And, I was a bit sad. He's like, "Snap out of that. It happens all the time.
yeah,
Why do you think I have a job?" And he was a really good musician.
yeah,
So I'm like, I get it, but he's like, but nothing. He's like, you're not working. Come and help me out because one of my guys, it's on vacation and I really need your help. At that point, they were growing like crazy. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. So he's like, I'm asking for a favor. you're not doing anything, and you're depressed. You're going to depress your family. So I decided, okay, let's go. And he asked me to work those 2 weeks. Pay sucked, but I got it right away, right? Because it was painting. I was painting the borders of a retractable screen. So I got it like immediately. And they do up to 40 feet by 90 feet seamless, but
Wow.
screens, which is kind of unusual. It's the only company in the world that does something like that. But I was doing about 25-foot wide retractable screen for a movie background or something like that. And I was about 15 feet off the floor. And an old man passes by and is like, "Hey, Joaquin, good job." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." So I finished my job. When he comes down as my supervisor's like, "Oh, so you know the CEO?" I'm like, "No." Yeah, that was Patrick Stewart. He's our CEO. I'm like, "Oh," but he called me by my name. He was, and that impressed me a great deal because I've always believed, look, to me, everything's about people.
Yeah.
So I was impressed. And my 2 weeks came up and they're like, "Look, can you stay?" I'm like, "No, I have a job." And he kind of made fun of me. He's like, "Look, you've been working at the same place. You've been trying to get out of there forever. It's like, you're not going to do any better out there than you would do here. So you should stay here." I'm like, "I'll tell you what, I'll do both jobs. I have a newborn and um, I guess I need the money, or, I could use the money." So I was able to work early in the morning until about 3 o'clock at Stewart, and then start at 4 o'clock at the restaurant. That lasted for a couple of years and until I was really tired.
Yeah.
Because at the restaurant I would get off at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then start at 6 o'clock in the morning at Stewart. So finally, I decided just to do it at Stewart. But Stewart was a really good learning. It's like you putting yourself through college, but you're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was a very quick rise. Within a few months, I went from production to marketing, from marketing to sales, international sales, from international sales to regular sales, from sales to factory liaison, from factory liaison to sales manager, from sales manager to director of sales, and then to VP of sales. And in marketing, I was in charge of doing my first project was Infocom, and we used to have about 200 screens. We used to do a projector shootout. So all the projector manufacturers used to do projectors side by side, which I think that was one of the best in technology at that point. It's something that I wish they did now, because now marketing takes over, and marketing may say things that are freely said, and so there's nothing like putting them side by side. And we had a 60 by 80 booth, and that was a big project. And honestly, I think it wasn't because of me. It's just timing and the team. That was the best Infocom they had. So right after that show, they put me in sales. So it was really fast that went up there, and I was the first VP that was not a steward. So that was a good ego booster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was fun.
Something I didn't know about you was your musical background.
Yes. I'm telling you, in our industry, I would say 80% of us are either music or art.
Yeah, well, you can see behind me, and same thing. It's like I got into this through a connection and somebody in music. So that's fascinating. So we'll have to talk another time about music.
Yes.
So now you've gone through this. It sounds like an amazing journey with Stewart, with film screens, and now you're VP of sales. So what prompted you to go from there to start your own business?
I loved working for Don Stewart. He's one of those guys that someone that made a difference in my life. It was him.
Mhm.
Uh, Extremely smart, business savvy. He's not an engineer, but he's a mad scientist when it comes to optical coatings, and not an engineer by trade, but he is an engineer.
Mhm.
So I really enjoy working with him. And the other thing that I really liked about him is that it used to be, so my friend Scott Stewart passed away at the age of 43.
Mhm.
So there were four stewards left: the CEO, president, and two VPs. Don Stewart was the VP, and we got along really well. We worked really well. Our business practices were right aligned. And then his brother, Tom Stewart, was actually, he was not a VP, he was a COO, CFO. So I would never really work with him. Um, and then Grant Stewart, who passed away, he was the president. But I always worked with Don. Don was the most non-Stewart. He was involved in sales, marketing, manufacturing. He was involved in everything. So he brought me along with everything, and I learned a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
I started in production. I knew marketing. I knew sales. I knew the entire company. So it was a lot of fun. Um, and but and we grew a lot, like a family business that went from here to here, uh,
Yeah.
internationally. We had a lot of verticals, so it allowed me to learn about government, simulation, commercial, industrial, residential, um, so in education. So a lot of different business models. But what really made it difficult for me was all the traveling. We had an office in Singapore, one in Denmark. We had distributors worldwide, and that was my job. Develop the infrastructure, the sales network. So all distributors for all the vertical markets, and in the U.S., we don't deal with distributors; we deal with representatives.
Yeah.
So that was just a lot of time out on the field, a lot of time on the road. And if you think about it, CEDIA channel alone, because I was the only salesperson at Stewart, could kill one person.
Yeah.
So CEDIA was just one vertical that I dealt with. So it's just too much traveling. And I missed out a lot of my son's upbringing, racing, growing up, that I was not there for. And you make a choice, right? You don't want your family to live in the wrong environment, so you got to do what you got to do at work. And so when certain things aligned, Don was not as involved with the company. Grant was more involved, and Grant was an amazing guy, but his business ideals, and mine were completely the opposite. And I'm just not a good clerk. I'm really bad at doing what people tell me to do.
Mhm.
And he wanted someone to be very mechanical. You're gonna
Yeah.
make a left. You're gonna make a right. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. I'm creative. I'm not that good at
Yeah.
following directions. So I decided one of our reps was becoming a manufacturer. So he left a window open, and I definitely never thought of becoming a rep.
Mhm.
But at the same time, that would mean that I would only travel within Southern California, Arizona, Vegas, and Hawaii, which is a piece of cake in comparison.
Yeah.
And I would not travel much. It's most days I would be asleep at home. So I decided to do that overnight. On a Friday night, I'm like, well, let me put a business plan together. So all night I stayed up about probably 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, I was done with my business plan. And on Monday morning, I went to Stewart and said, "Hey, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. But I do want to represent the line since we don't have a rep in this market." And so that's when it started a little over 10 years ago.
Wow. So how did you know to put a business plan together? What prompted you to do that? Because that's pretty smart in order to do that. Because you're basically going, here's my plan, here's my goal that I want to go with this. Here's what I want to do. So now you've kind of mapped out a roadmap of where you want to take your company. How did you know to do that?
So, over the years, I mean, Stewart was uh, a pretty large corporation.
Mhm.
Employee wise, it got as close as about 200 employees. That's just direct employees. As far as distributors worldwide, and if you remember, there have to be a distributor for the commercial market, for the residential market, for the um, simulation, for industrial. So there was a lot of talent that I had to work with. So it's just, I always, since my schooling, if you want to go in business, you got to have a business plan. And in most cases, when I interview distributors, that would be one of the things that I would be a stickler about. So what is your business plan? Can I see it? And yes, business plan changes. Mine has changed quite a bit. But I believe that without that, it's like driving without a map, right? If I never have been to New York and I want to drive out there, I want to have a map because I want to make sure that I get the shortest distance. Without a map, you'll probably get there, but it's just not going to be efficient. Now, it may be fun, but not efficient. So I've always believed that you have to have a detailed plan to be able to make it where you're going.
Yeah. I'm just writing some things down that you're saying because
Yeah, and I tell you, it's as you are aware, when you have a um, job career, you're getting a check every 2 weeks. You're getting 401k, you're getting benefits, you're getting vacation time, you're getting, you know exactly how much you can afford. And now you decide to go on your own and you have no clue whatsoever how
yeah,
much money you're going to make in a month. Um, so uh, you got to have a business plan would really make me feel comfortable that this is how much I could make this month. I'm not saying that I'm going to make it, but this is how much I can make.
so you
So,
can target.
so it allows you to feel at ease to a certain degree. As long you know that you can work so many hours, and if I work so many hours, I can make this. If I make this many calls, I could close 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
And if I close 3 out of 10, I can make this much money. So again, it's just having that comfort that you can pay your bills. And that to me was critical. My son at that point was 16 years old. No, 17.
Yeah. And I can
So
tell you, having a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old now, it's like, man, you don't think they're listening or paying attention to you and what you do and how you do it and showing that work ethic, but they do. They pick up on that. I've noticed that even just some of the things that they say. I'm surprised that because I didn't think they were listening, but they get it. So
I'm telling you, they're 3 years old, 2 years old, and they're listening.
yeah,
You're definitely a role model, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
yeah.
Since they're little. Yeah.
Now you've
17.
got Nathan working with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that about it, and sometimes I want him to go and work for somebody else
Uh-huh.
uh, because I always think that you have to be well educated and not necessarily book smart, but book smart is great, but also educated by different people, well-rounded, right? So you get the you know, if you think of color, red, green, and blue create white. Let's say that I'm only giving him the red. I want him to go and find the blue and the green from somebody else or from other two people. So like that, he becomes well-rounded.
Yeah.
I think that that's important. So,
Oh, that's a great
but
example.
but I do enjoy. I'm a bit selfish though because right now he's 27, and I do enjoy. I feel that that net when he's with me, that he's a support mechanism for me. I'm a lot better at what I do because I know that he's around.
Yeah.
But I think that to a certain degree, I think that's selfish, and I want him to grow up. He's learning a lot. And he's making an okay living for a 27-year-old. I want him to do better. I want him to do more, but also, you know, I
I
he
think
works
every
every
dad,
cent.
yeah. Every dad's that way, it's like with my kids, I'm always wanting them to do better and whether it's schoolwork, whatever activities they're doing, you want them to at least live up to their potential because
That's right.
I feel sometimes, even myself, but it's easier to see it in other people, especially your kids, that they've got all this potential, yet
Yes.
they're distracted, whether it's by video games or other things, they're distracted and they're not really living up to that. So, I mean, that's, my prayer or my wish for them is that they learn to live up to that potential and do something every day towards getting better and learning. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. So what's next for you? I usually kind of try to wrap this up just so that it's 5 o'clock here in the West Coast, so you can have your time with your family. So what's next for by design, vision, and sound?
So I think that it took 10 years to build the infrastructure that we needed, meaning that the idea of our building our experience center was always from day one. We just couldn't afford to do it. We try to make it happen by going to manufacturers, giving the idea and say, hey, we just need you to contribute this amount. But it's really, and I get it, difficult to get manufacturers to invest in things that it's unusual for them. I get it. So finally, after 9 years, we were able to buy a building and within the building, bring in all the technology that anybody would need into that when they're building a house, you would need to experience. So like that, they make a wiser choice. Um, you know, not necessarily because not every product that we sell is expensive. Um, but in many cases, you get what you paid for.
Yeah.
And in those many cases, if the customer wants to understand why am I paying X amount of dollars for that, it's great if they come here so they can understand the why.
Mhm.
And I get it with technology, let's say projectors, we have a projector from Epson that is $2,400.
Mhm.
And we go up to a projector from Barco that is $535,000. So we can tell you the reasons why this projector is 535 and this is 2440, or you can see it yourself.
Yeah.
So any technology, any home that is being built right now, one of the um, sure things that we know is that every home, it's getting smarter and smarter, if you want to call it a smart home.
Yeah.
Um, and if a builder, uh, one of the reasons why a builder is going to be able to sell a new home versus what's out there is technology within a home.
Mhm.
That will make it easier for them. So the idea was for the building to show the technology working so the end user understands why or they could budget. Well, I don't need to spend this much. What do you think I can get with this? Now, again, we're not selling to the end user. We're just educating them. We want to educate. The goal, again, is education. We want to educate the builder, the architect, the designer, and immediately our business partners, the low voltage contractors. So the more educated the low voltage contractor is, the less issues they're going to have, because you'll know how to install the product, you'll know how to troubleshoot a product, and you'll be familiar with the way that the product works. So that will save you a lot of time out on the field, and that'll make our business partners more profitable. So that's the goal. Now we have the infrastructure. Now, I think, because we built it, not saying that they will come, but we will make them come, so the business grows. We've been working the last 10 years just to build the infrastructure. We now just need to hire a couple more people, but we now have the infrastructure. Now we just need to grow the business.
Yeah. And it is a very impressive experience center.
I appreciate that.
Being there, seeing the video wall that you guys have, that's amazing. Having the barcode projectors lined up, the way you have everything laid out, not only just to experience the technology, but also you have it set up for training so that you can bring in manufacturers and then have all of us as representing those products in our business to be able to go there, learn how to not only how the product works technically, but also how to sell it to our clients. So that's an important thing. And I think it's great that you did that.
And honestly, I think that, look, I believe that no one likes to be sold, but everybody loves to buy. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're doing it. We don't want the end user to think that they're being sold by you. We want them to come in, they have the options, they see the options, and now they just choose. They're selling themselves. They are consuming something that they want. We're also doing the next plan to finish the building is to do a lighting lab. And lighting is so critical, not only to our health, but also to the education, because most people do not understand how much of a difference lighting can make, the right lighting. So we're going to have a lighting lab, so we can educate, again, the trade, but also the end user. Mm-hmm. We can go and buy a cheap lighting fixture from Home Depot, per se. Not saying that everything they sell is cheap. I'm just saying that, you can buy a cheap lighting fixture from there, and then compare it to the ones that are available in our industry, and immediately you'll see the difference. And there is, as I said, health benefits to that. Air, water, filtration. That's critical for the home. If you've noticed, your iPhone during the summer, especially in our area, that's the entire country, but in our area in summer, it'll give you warnings that it's unhealthy air outside. So when the air is unhealthy outside, don't bring in air in. Just have the filter your system work internally. So water, one of the guys, professional at that, he did tell me, hey, do you know that you consume about 2 pounds of food a day? Actually 1 pound of food, 2 pounds of water. Food, you're very picky with it. Water, I'm definitely picky. What water I consume. But he's like, you consume about 26 pounds of air a day. Are you doing anything about that? And that actually, it's when it started making me realize that water matters, food matters. But air in the home, 27 pounds a day, 27 pounds a day, that's a lot. So are we doing anything about that? And do we all know that we could do something about that? And so that to me is educational. I think it's something that I really want to get people to understand.
I mean, there's so much to learn, even and how technology is just always adding benefits to our lives, how we live each day, with simple things like that, having some, air purification system in your house.
And without being able to show it, it's very difficult to educate the end user, the architect, the designer, because you're still not going to understand it. So if you have the product and show it, or have them taste the water, or have them see the lighting, that immediately wakes them up and make them understand. So again, that's the goal with the building. And so now we just need to grow.
Yeah. Well, whatever I can do to help, because I think growing together is always great than just being alone and trying to do things on your own. So, Joaquin, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to have a conversation. And, the whole reason for this podcast is to go, beyond average to great, is just for me feeling like my whole life growing up, I've lived an average life, meaning growing up in school, I was a C student. I worked just hard enough to get, know that I could get good grades, but then always defaulted to that position of just being a C student. And then just realizing as I got older in life that, man, the only way to get ahead and stand out is to become great at something. You can't just, be average and have and want a great life. You have to commit to those things that are going to help you to become great. And so I appreciate your time again.
Likewise, Mark, we appreciate you, buddy. You're always the motivational guy that we need around. So I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate that. Hey, thank you for joining us today on Beyond Average to Great. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to show your appreciation is by subscribing to our show and sharing it on your social media channels. Don't forget to tag me when you do. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, remember, be great.